Good evening and welcome to the Willington Board of Education special meeting. This is our budget workshop number 1. It is January 14th, 2026. We are calling the meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. We invite you to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to kick off tonight with present to speak. Is there anyone in the room or online who would like to participate? You can raise your hand virtually or in real life. On these special meetings, we do not have another opportunity for present to speak. However, don't worry, we'll be right back here next week and you can share your thoughts then if you prefer. Okay, very good. Okay, well, welcome to budget season. We're all very excited to be here and sure that we're supporting our students here in Willington to the best of our ability. Tonight we're going to have an introduction by Phil, and then we're going to talk about program 1, which is the Garden Center Elementary, program 2, which of course has to do with Home Memorial, and program 4, which is about the transportations. So, Mr. Stevens, let's take it from the top.
Yeah. All right, sweet. Long time no see. So the walkthrough is always easier when you have a board who's lived this document before. You've lived this before. This will be online tomorrow. First thing I'm going to say, and Arthur, I'm going to say this directly to you because I think you were the person that asked for this. I had asked Donna for the finer detail of this. She was going to put it into the Tyler system. She has not had time to do that.
Okay.
I asked Sherry, who was filling in for if she was going to have time for that. They didn't think they were going to do it within 2 weeks. So that is something that we will have in the future. I just don't have it tonight. It's basically what comes out of Tyler. And I was hoping to have that. The details are in this. It just lays it out further with the account numbers. So I just wanted to say that first because that was important to me. Okay, budget workshop. So first off, thank you to all the folks that have helped with this. This is a long process. I probably need to apologize to the other budget folks that do want a Donna time because I really don't. I did hog Donna time intentionally to make sure we had all the data, particularly if you're going to make changes. And she goes next Friday. Thanks to my administrators for constantly going back through documents, looking at things. We literally made a change to special ed yesterday. And just trying to make sure that we have accurate information. And I'll share with you some of the pieces that I'm a little worried about tonight, that we don't have updated information on yet. But this is a long process and we get a lot of feedback on it. So thanks to the crew that did that. This will be on the website tomorrow. So for the walkthrough, you can see on page 2, the table of contents is there. It's got all the sections that are in there. For the folks that have not looked at this before, really there's 10 programs. We have the enrollment that's in here. The appendix are really helpful for getting a grasp of what's in the schools, but you can see all of the items on the table of contents. Page 6 has the board goals, and that is important for the district framework because that is what we tie our budget to. So when we have budget dollars, it is tied to something that is on this, and particularly in the goal section, obviously, that you see there. There's something tied to that. I'm just going to make this bigger for those people that are. There's always dollars tied to those items. All right. And I'm not going to go through all those things are there. You can review them on your own. And most of those things you know already. If you go to page, I'm going to have you jump to page 25. That is the start of the instructional summaries. And so the administrative team takes time to put information out about their program. Particularly program 1 is Center School. Lisa's got on there, principal has on there just some background information, points of pride, and goals. And then the same thing happens, and they're right in a row for Paul. Same concept, points of pride. goals, and then Marcia has done the same thing. No offense to Alicia or Lisa. I think it's important that people really closely read the portion on special education. And the reason for that is unless you have a child who's identified and you sit and you live that process, oftentimes you don't know. So in Marcia's section, she has the layout of what this looks like for our district, but it also has in their definitions. What do these people do? How does it tie to special ed? I think those things are really critical for people who just wouldn't know because they haven't lived it. And so for the board, you've seen this before. For the folks that are listening, I really highlight that section. They're all equally important, but I highlight that one because I think unless you've lived it, you don't know. And so that's there. The last part of that on page 32, and we're not going to get into detail about it tonight, but it's there. There's a special education excess cost example. We'll talk about that next week when we go to program 3. I think that's a really important item for people to understand as well, because it is a large portion of our budget. So you can see that. Okay, so the next item on page 33. These are all the grants, and I have descriptions of the grants that are applied to the budget. And you've heard me say this before. There are a lot of superintendents that are not transparent to put these items out there. I'm not throwing them under the bus. It's just the way they operate their district. We put all of our grants out there. You know what we have for dollars and how much has been applied. The IDEA B grant and the preschool grant, the second grant down, those are both tied to special education. Every dollar that comes in is applied as an offset to your budget. The excess cost grants is when you have outplacement placements and you get a percentage back. We apply every dollar back that we expect to get back. $425,000 is what we're expecting next year. It's a lot of money. The general education grants, you have Title I, II, IV. 1 is applied to intervention staff at both schools. The full amount is applied to salaries. Title II is professional development. The full amount is tied to offset your professional development costs. Title IV is clubs. We pay the stipends and the transportation. The full $10,000 is as an offset to your budget. It's how they're used. And then the REAP grant is the only grant that I do not apply every single dollar to. We get about $35,000 each year. That is my little buffer. We apply $17,800 in the next budget. My buffer, and when I say my buffer, when Heidi Eferismo, our math coach, comes to me and says, I'd like to make sure we have all the material for this program so teachers can teach it the way we wanted to teach it. It's $7,000. It's not in your budget. I just bought it. Okay. So those are things like one-time purchases. That's typically how I use REAP. And it's also my buffer for something that they come up with real creative. I'd like to do X and it's not in the budget. That is my only buffer. Okay. You can see that we do apply. So in this, the grants total, and this doesn't include non-lapsing, because that's not a grant, is $634,000. That is a huge chunk of change. And when you think about other places where they might not apply all that money, and it's on the back end where people don't see it, that's important to know because we talked about this last night. When I say we're tight on our budget, we have applied every dollar that we can apply. It is in the budget, it's there, when I say it's tight, it's tight. And not everybody does that. Page 34 is what we expect in this budget for staffing. When you look at this, you know, there's several staff that work at both buildings. So when you see a social worker listed at 0.75 at center and then 0.25 at hall, it's just that person can operate both buildings. and that's how they budget. So 0.75 falls in center school's budget, 0.25 falls in hall. There's several people that are like that, and it's one person. So 0.5 math coach is in both buildings. There are other times where you'll see like the physical therapist that's under the district, where it's 0.27. They are 0.27, so that would be how it falls. Okay. They would be across the district. We also have certain people that are coded across multiple programs. So my administrative assistant Brenda, she is under the district section, but you also, when you look at the breakdown, part of her is tied to program 9, the 0.85, and part of her is tied to program 4, the 0.15. So she does a portion of transportation, which is what that 0.145 is. And the program 9 is, as my assistant, that's program 9 is the district. And so that's 0.85 her salary. So there are certain programs, when you see that someone is tied to multiple programs, that those budget dollars follow that percent. Is that clear?
What does she do in program 4?
So for transportation, she does a bunch of routes stuff. So the 2 principal secretaries of both buildings will do routes, but then she'll take them, she'll go through all the routes. Anything to do where we get notifications out about any transportation issues, she's the one handling it back out to the assistants. So she has it's not a ton of hours, but it happens enough where it's somebody's coded off to that. Appendix F is the next item, and that is the budget history overview. This is kind of taken on a little bit of a different look than it has in the past. Doesn't have the new numbers in there. But it has what the budget approved was, what the increase was for that year, what was turned at the end of the year turned back, what you transferred into your non-lapsing fund, and then what was returned to the general fund. And you can see the reasons for each year, just in a snapshot of, what was there and what was not. I have had some flashbacks to 18-19, which was my first year of that turning back of $5,000. We had about $30,000 left. And we did have to have some end of year purchases. But that was obviously the tightest budget year that I had ever experienced, and it was my first year. And that was the year that we had outplacements come in mid-year, outplacements plural. So that really impacts your bottom line. Questions about any of the percentages are there. Again, you can see for the most part, when we've had big years, then I say big years, the 4.67 and the 6.75, there's been reasons why. Don't like to pinpoint, like blame it on one program. 4.67 was health insurance. We thought we were going to get a huge increase that year, and we ended up not getting it. So we had more money, which is why the end of the year turnback was so large. And then the 6.75 was tied to special education. Okay. All right, so we're gonna go all the way back now to page 9. And we are going to talk about, we're gonna see the enrollments. The 9 and 10 are both enrollment pages. So you look at the actual 25-26 section. You have the October 1 enrollment, which is reported to the state. The 211, is the center school number, the 162 is the hall school number. Those are the numbers that were reported to the state. And then you added the students that are outplaced. The homerooms, the number of homerooms are there. And then I also like to show on 1/9/26, you can see if there was any change from the October date. The class sizes by section and what the actual enrollment was. So you can see like first grade went up 3 students since October 1. You can see fourth grade went up 2 students since October 1. You get the gist all the way through. So the total number where it's at. The projected in the blue is the updated Prouda projection. And that is what he's projecting for next year is 392. I have never budgeted based upon the projection. I've always created classes and budgeted based upon our actual today. So the number of sections you see in the last two columns are the number of homerooms we expect to have for each. And the number of students that would be in each of those sections if everything remained the same. You have to budget for a teacher. So when you look at that, I'm looking at 2 sections of kindergarten, 2 sections of first, 2 of second, 3 of third, 3 of fourth. And then the middle school model always operates on 3 sections. Questions about that?
Is that kindergarten number? Oh, that's product, that's the product. Okay,
48 is his
That's it.
projection.
So
I
that's-
really can't go off that.
No. So we're going
And
off
Lisa
the-
asked me, is that number big enough? And it's what we know today. It could go up. It went up last year to 17 and 17, but still in a number that is, in my opinion,
Okay,
reasonable for us to maintain 2 sections.
thank you.
The next page is just a 20-year history. I think this just shows the big picture, and I think when I showed this to Alicia, she, as a new principal, looked at this one, you had 596 students here? We did it one time, and you can see some of where the drops were. You can see from 9-10 to 10-11, there was a little bit of a drop there. And then you can just see that from 13-14 to about 19-20, we were in that 420, 430, 440, 450 area. And then COVID dropped, and now we're back in that 380, 390 section again. It's just a snapshot. What's interesting is the number of students has changed, obviously, by quite a bit, a couple hundred students over those 20 years. You have made, and not necessarily you because it's prior boards of ed, right? I've made cuts to positions to get to where you are, and that has happened over the years. That has leveled out though. So when I say that, you really couldn't cut to, like, there used to be 3 sections of every grade level at the elementary school. Obviously, that doesn't exist anymore. You can't cut further because you couldn't go to 1. A section of 34 in 2nd grade, you couldn't do that. Right? So when you're in a bigger district, you know, when I was in Tallinn, I had 10 sections of 5th grade. If you had a bubble, you could easily shrink it down and distribute those kids out with very little impact. We can't do that. We don't have that opportunity anymore because we're small. So the impact on the per pupil cost is significant with very little change in services. That makes sense in programming. All right, so let's go to the budget snapshot. What everybody wants to see. What does the budget look like? Page 7. So you had a 2.51% increase in 25-26. My proposed budget is $618,000, $343 over. It is a 6.17% increase. And there are definitely drivers in this budget, and I will share what they are. When you look at the developmental budget assumption costs, the first item is the big. Anthem, our insurance provider for both medical and dental at this point, has changed their practice and is not sharing not to exceed numbers. That means in prior years, we would have met already. And they'd say, you're not going to exceed a 15% increase. And then I would go on and say, okay, it's looking good. You're not going to exceed 10. And then it would slowly negotiate to continue to look at your rates, and it would work its way down. It takes a little time. This is the first in all of my years, I've never had this. And we've let our broker know we're not happy about this. It's not our broker, it is Anthem. We have to budget something, and we have settled at 10%. that is a significant number because if, and our usage, when I say our usage is outstanding. I mean, like, we have a very good chance to have a very, very minimal increase. Our Board of Ed usage that we get, they want to be at the 80th percentile. And when they're at the 80th percentile, they're making good profit. Anything above the 80th percentile, they're not making as good profit because people are using more. I will tell you, my last report, we were in the 50s. So when I say they are making some good money on us right now, they are. We don't have claimants over 100,000. Sometimes you have 3 or 4 claimants over 100,000. We have 0. We have a very good opportunity for this budget to come down. I just can't comfortably put that in without that confirmation. Because if we do have a 10% increase and you don't budget for it, it's a heck of a lot of money. If it's a 0, it takes $91,000 off this budget. It's about $23,000 for each 2.5%.
Would you say that again, Phil? It's
Yes.
about,
So if they cut it if we went from a 10% to a 7.5, it cuts about 23,000. And then you just work your way down from there. And if it's a 0, it is about $92,000. So if we get a 0% increase on our insurance, it takes $92,000 off. And it would take out about 0.86 off the overall increase percentage. Does that make sense?
When are we gonna know?
I don't know that we're gonna know in time.
And you don't have any sense as to why it's different this year?
Anthem has this, they're doing this for everybody. And I don't know if it's because things are so volatile elsewhere, I don't know. We're not alone in this, we've asked that same question, we've also said. Well, we wanna make sure we have enough time to go out to bid.
Yeah.
And that, the problem is you can only change your budget number so long. What may happen is, and I think this has happened in prior years, where we've had a decrease after you've approved your budget. And then we've gone to Board of Finance and said, insurance, and this impacts the town too, not just Board of Ed. We could come back and say, we budgeted for 10. The insurance company is saying it's not gonna increase beyond 2. Here's the dollar value. Decrease your budgets that much.
So if it's just Anthem, this might not help us this year, but if our usage is so great, wouldn't we be marketable? Like, wouldn't someone else want to?
We are, and we changed to Anthem just this year, and there were not a lot of bids. There's not a lot of insurance companies out there, still.
The
So
town is, the town is also doing 10% hypothetical budget, okay.
I can't say yes to that, that's gonna be Mike's decision.
Right.
That's Donna's recommendation, when we talk, she's gonna say, we've gotta plan something, so we're planning for a 10.
Okay,
Because of the usage,
makes sense.
yeah. Typically, John, I would put it at 15. Which if you look at that one page or the very last page that had that one year that was a bubble. An asterisk, I think we were at 14 and it came in way lower,
Okay.
but happened too late. There's nothing, you have to budget. If you don't budget that increase and it stays as is, you're in trouble. I mean, it's $100,000. You can't, we don't have that money. So that's one reason. The other assumptions that are in here, listen, fuel came down. That's great. It helped us. Heating fuel and diesel came down. We locked in early because they were significantly low. Electric did go up. We do have an additional outplacement in this budget. We went from 6 to 7. Transportation did go up in your last year of your contract. 16,000 in the grand scheme of things is not terrible though.
But we're in the last year of the contract.
We are last year on contract, yep.
Mhm.
It's always important to identify that we do have shared services, the town and someone. I don't think it was intentional, but said this last year, like, well, it's not really a shared service because it's paid for entirely in the town budget, which is true. All of the business offices paid for out of the town budget, it's not in your budget. But the reason it's seen as a shared service is because if you didn't have them and they weren't shared. You need a business office to operate a school district. You would have to pay for them. That's why we add the bus drivers in. That's on your list of staffing. You couldn't run your school district if you didn't have bus drivers, right? You need those things. So we see it as a shared service, even though you're not paying for it. That is part of the collaboration on the town side. IT is a split cost. We pay our portion, they pay our portion. And we get a lot for it. We negotiate our fuel together, we negotiate our mowing together, we do our telephone system together, and we do our insurances together. So those are things that help us, because we're small, it makes our group a little bit bigger and a little more marketable. I always say there's unfunded band-aids, I say this every year. The list has grown even more. It's just, there's a lot of things out there that you have to do that, there's no extra dollars that come with it. These are just some examples. The PMT trainer now is a stipend for us. We pay someone internal to do this. We're required to have our crisis team have those things. The teacher evaluation, what you're required to do for, those things, it's important, but there's no dollars tied to these things. Any of the annual reporting things that we have to do, planning and placement teams that we have to have certain people there. When you have to do those things, we're paying someone to be there. And so it's just a requirement, and there's things where you're stuck. I mean, you're probably one of your unfunded mandates this year was every time minimum wage goes up, you don't have a choice. It's outside your contracts. You have to do it. And so that's hard. The next page on the budget process, page 8, is we go back and forth and you don't see what I'll call the nitty gritty. Anytime I get a new principal as Alicia in this situation, I'll say, that's nice, that would be a good thing to add into the budget, or I'll say, sorry, keep dreaming, that's just not something we can afford right now. We go through this process, and I do this with all the administrators we meet. We go through the budgets and say, are you sure that's the number? We go through the lines and we talk about these things. What you see here is how we applied the grants. And you see how much money we applied to each program. Obviously, without the grants in program 3, your budget is significantly higher. I have applied $100,000 in non-lapsing funds to this, and we've also applied all of those, other grants. So in the end, and I mentioned these grants already, the amounts, including the non-lapsing fund, you've taken $734,000 off of this budget. Again, we're small. Imagine bigger districts who have more money that don't put these things out front and aren't necessarily transparent about it. That's their buffer. That is a massive buffer. We don't, and we never have done that. I just don't think it's the right way to do it. But again, it's the reason why when how we spend our dollars, and when we say we need what we need that's in this the budget, a 6% increase is a lot. However, it's still a tight budget. Questions about that page? So again, we've removed all of the, where we've had our conversations. We still have, the items that are in there where we do the savers. Marcia worked on getting a speech and language assistant instead of a second speech and language teacher. Like, we've done those things along the way, keep costs lower, but still provide high quality services. So there's bunches of those examples. I will point out this year, there are contractual increases. That is item number 2. Teachers are more expensive, administrators are more expensive. The West contract is more expensive, but we are marketable. If you just keep watching the news, they keep talking about people saying 15% increase over 3 years, 16% increase over 3 years. Like, it just seems like the number keeps growing because as minimum wage has gone up, they have to keep a buffer. And they're trying to keep those jobs professional. So you are going to see contractual rates in here that have made a difference. But I will give you the 3 reasons here. It's really staff contracts is 1, special ed is 2, particularly outplacement, not in-house stuff. and insurance. Those are your three increases. Those are your big ones. So, program one. The center school starts on page 11. And it always starts with the staffing, so you can see the number of administrators. The 18.72 really is because a portion of the teacher of the interventionist is in that Title I. That's the 0.33 of their salary is paid for by the grant. You see the number of secretaries again, because a portion of that secretary to make it the 2.0 is in a different program. Center school has 2. Okay. There are 0 non-special education paraprofessionals. I think that's really important. Some districts, and I think Arthur, you talked about this last night, is that last year they had to cut a bunch of, what did you call them?
They were teachers assistants.
Teachers, instructional aides. There's districts that have those. They're not tied to special education. They're there for supports for various things. We don't have those. The version we have is the staff support specialist, where they are covering classrooms during PPTs or subbing in classrooms or doing lunch duties or recess duties, things like that, to maximize teacher time for preparation and instructional planning. The salaries are there. You can see the big jump is in the teacher section. And that jump is just happens to be where our teachers are at. There is a jump in secretarial, but not much. And same thing in the staff support specialist. But really it's on the teacher side of it. Lisa's budget has a over 7% increase. This is the reason why. It's contractual.
So did we have a percent increase this year, or?
It's gotta be around 4. I think it was around 4 each year. And it's hard because as people come in and out, it just depends on where they were.
Right.
That was when you budgeted, or when you approved the contract and what your census was at that time. This number could change, and I'll give you an example. We budget 65,000. Step 1 masters is what we budget for when someone leaves and we have a position. It's about $60,000. Lisa says to me, hey, my best candidate, which is what I asked for, is this person. And I look at it and it's 6th year, top step, $96,000. I hired that person because it's the best candidate. And if it's close, I'm gonna say, Lisa, let's have a conversation about those 2 candidates. Because if they're very close, I'm gonna see if I can get the person that's less expensive, but they have to be close. If they're not, I'm gonna bring in the best candidate there, any of them give me. And then I've got to find a way to balance it. And typically it does, because you might have 96,000 budgeted for someone, and then you hire someone for 60. It works both directions. This is based upon the census today.
Is our copier lease shared up with the town also? Are we getting a bundle through that?
It's a bundle for the district.
Okay,
So everybody pays a portion of their.
right, that's why it's broken down.
Yes. Correct. Yep.
I think the copier was broken down.
No.
Yeah. So you can see the purchase services that are in there, the different subscriptions. It's slightly under Power School, maintenance and support. Power School shows up in a couple spots because one is the overall program and then one is the school level side of it. The copier leases and maintenance, we went out, I think, last year on our copiers. We make our copiers work hard. This includes the copies, but we also make them last. So when we buy machines, when they're done, we extend their life, and it's outside of your lease. So sometimes you see a drop there because of that. Like my copier was replaced last year. The copier I had in my office for several years was not on lease because we just had bought it outright, and it was just whatever maintenance it needed, we paid for. Telephone, internet, pretty straightforward. Internet is again a district wide, and that's after E-rate.
I was gonna say it's after E-rate, right?
It's after E-rate, so it's probably closer to $27,000 for the district, I think, is the number. And we are expected to pay about 31% next year, after the E-rate reimbursement. So it's about $4,500. Trash is trash. There's no money in here for extra activities for CS clubs. If they want something, we take it out of the grant. It's there. There's no Board of Ed budget dollars tied to this. So again, you can see purchase services, minor increase. Educational supplies is everything under the sun. That did go down a little bit simply because of, I had Lisa remove some dollars from one-time purchase items. We had budgeted for a special, a science program that is still not out. And I said, if there's no date that they are saying it's gonna come out, let's take the dollars out. If it comes out and we need to find the dollars, I'll supplement it with REAP. We still have the money, some money there. If it comes out in the future year, we'll budget for it again. But we did not have that, so we took it out. So that's really why she has a minor decrease there, is really two programs. The textbooks aren't really textbooks, they're just books, for the classrooms and periodicals. Relatively flat, that they need a lot of, that's like time for kids, things like that. When you look at the equipment, that's pretty flat, and that's, computer equipment, and that turns out to be an offset at the end. That's, Chromebook parts, iPad breaks, they need to buy a new one, it comes out of that line. $5,000 doesn't go a long way if you have to replace numerous things. We typically buy about $2,000 worth of parts annually, that are distributed. And then Novus also has a stockpile of, I'll give you an example of broken Chromebooks that they part out. Tracy's Chromebook screen is broken, my keyboard's broken, they put them together to make them work. And so they do a good job of keeping that going for us from that money.
Do we have a replacement plan for like your laptop and things?
We're gonna get to that. Wait till program 2.
So do we have what we want in every classroom?
Certainly, I would say yes. In hall school, we have a different conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
But center's good, everybody has appropriate,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
They are 1-to-1 pre-K, first through first grade iPads,
Mhm.
and second through fourth is Chromebooks. 1-to-1,
Thank you.
but that's coming around. The piano tuning is minor, the building maintenance went up a little bit. I went back through over the years to see what has been spent on the inspections and things like that, but also the repairs that comes out of this line. And it was a little low, so I bumped this up a little bit. Hall schools actually came down because I'm looking at over the years. It was too high. The other part of this for both programs 1 and 2, I've read that the DRIP grant that I mentioned last night, the district repair grant, is supposed to be set for 2 years. I went through multiple years of budgets to see what actual expenditures were and what projects would qualify, and I took an average. And so that money would be, the DRIP money would be on top of what you see here. This is really turns into our building maintenance subscriptions, the fire extinguishers, the septic, the things like that. So again, overall, minor increase. The other is contractual. You get conference money. The principal supplies is not contractual, but that is, printing promotion certificates. When we talk about a quote unquote slush fund for a principal, she has about $2,000. That's her play money when something great comes up and she's like, I wanna do that. That's all she has. That's what she has to work with. And I'm telling you, there are districts that's times 10 that money. It's not a lot of money, but they do make it go far. So she's got Super B things. She wants to do something like that. It comes out of those.
She's very frugal, to be clear.
Yes, you are very frugal. My whole team is very frugal. Awesome. So you see the total expenditures is up. Again, you can just track it back. It is in salary. You can see the Title I offset that comes off of an interventionist. The $5,000 is applied off of REAP. That is part of that 17,800 for a total budget of $1,934,288. There's a quick snapshot there, just about some of the dollars. It's obviously more apparent in the appendix, but it is a 7.42% increase. And again, salary, salary, salary. You're going to hear me say this over and over and over. I think people need to understand. If this budget is going to change from where it is right now, I told you the insurance change. If people are gonna say you need to be in the twos, you're not cutting supplies to get to the twos. Okay, so when I go through people in here, we've already had rough conversations about what that looks like, because the only way you cut $100,000 is through personnel. And it's the reality of a budget conversation. I'm not trying to scare people. I just wanna make it clear for people that are watching that they're not happy about the overall percentage, even taking out the insurance and being 0 and being in the fives. You don't cut a ton of money without getting to people. Your percent is over $100,000 now, 8%. Questions about anything to do with one?
Bill, if we go back to maintenance, why was the
Oh, good question, Ian.
24-25 high? Was that the field?
No.
That was it all?
So
Yeah.
what you see is when you look at the adjusted number, I almost don't like that column, because it's end of the year spending.
Hmm.
So what did you do that was big at 24-25 at center school? You did a playground.
Oh, okay.
So that money was not like, you didn't actually have $104,000 that you budgeted. It's just the way that it's been presented. So we show if there was a major adjustment before, that's what that one was. We definitely don't budget off of that. I'm
It
sure
transferred at the end of the year.
it transferred from
that
insurance to cover
to pay
that.
for it.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, very good. It wasn't budgeted.
No,
Yeah, okay.
it's just when the budget closes, where was the money spent? And we have to show that. So that's what that looks like.
Thank you.
Good question.
Good question.
Yeah, it kind of jumps off the page a little bit, doesn't it? You lived this, so I'm gonna keep cranking if that's okay with you. So you're gonna hear the same concept at all, so you see again, the staffing that's there. Relatively consistent. This one does have paraprofessionals that work in specific spots. They are not tied to special education. One runs the library and is overseen by the library media specialist. One works in intervention and one runs our world language program using Rosetta Stone. So those are the three. You see one staff support specialist. You see again, $90,000 jump in teachers' salaries. Just where it falls contractually, minor jump in the secretarial, same thing in pairs, same thing in staff support specialist. Again, those are all contractual items. And the increase happens to be on teacher stuff. Subscriptions are a little bit higher at Hall because $10,000 of that is Rosetta Stone. We have a world language program because we use Rosetta Stone, and significantly obviously cheaper than a classroom teacher, or finding, or where we were unable to find that teacher. It's why that subscription is so high. The PE wall inspection, you got power school again, copiers again, telephone, internet, postage, all disposal, same. We do have the music in here under repairs and piano tuning falls under this one. We had up the music repairs last year because we have more students that are using our instruments, and we wanted to make sure we were repairing them so that they could use them. And so that continues to be the case, and they use those dollars.
Who do we have do the repairs? DeBaldo down in Manchester?
I think it's music and arts. I think we have a relationship with music and arts.
Okay.
I think Rob actually has shopped. Rob Cannon is the one that does those.
I'm sure.
He stretches his dollar. The educational supplies there's the jump off the page, right? So John asked, there's all their supplies. We could have put this in a couple spots, we could have put it in computer equipment down below, we decided to put it in supplies. There's a $20,000 increase here for Chromebooks. We are in the process right now, and Alicia and Novus and I have already had a conversation of looking at what we have for Chromebooks and trying to come up with how we continue to replace and the replacement plan. I will probably show you next time, because I just shared it with them today. Looking at some options. This $20,000 is obviously a significant increase. It buys approximately 50 Chromebooks.
Plus the license.
That's after the licensing.
Yeah.
What they found is that it's about $400 a pop. She is trying to make a move long-term to carts, and we're trying to see if it's cost-effective and achievable. To do the carts is so that kids are not carrying Chromebooks around and trying to minimize breakage. We could conversely, and I haven't had this conversation with her, look to do insurance as well. So when someone breaks, we just pay the insurance. There's many ways you could look at this. No matter what, we have about a little over 400 Chromebooks in the district that within 3 years are going to run out of, their education licensing or the licensing updates are going to expire. We're trying to figure out how we continue that on. So we have pulled together basically a large IT plan that is looking at what needs to be replaced. Promethean boards is 2031. Teacher laptops, I think, are on year 3, like they're in the mix. There's a lot of devices that you need to operate district. It's $100,000, over $100,000 for Chromebooks alone if you're just gonna replace them in one shot. We figured we'd start with 20,000. It gets us a little bit further. Moving to carts, we found that we need more Chromebooks than we have now. And the reason why is because they have to live there. Sharing doesn't work. So she's got a survey out right now, trying to gather more information about actual usage. It buys us a time for the year. I have been, I don't know that we budgeted laptops, because I think when Jackie came in, she replaced laptops, and then 1 year where we had a bunch of money, I replaced some laptops at the end of the year. So we've done that along the way. I believe if you do a major school construction project, this all would fall into it.
Including.
So when you start thinking about the dollars of Promethean boards at $5,000 a pop, Chromebooks, teacher laptops, all those things, it adds up. I think we started at 18, I bumped it to 20 to try and get a clear 50. 50 over 3 years is only 150 of the 400 that need to be replaced. It's not a sustainable avenue, but I just started with a 20,000 for now.
So if they live on carts, they don't go home.
They don't go home now,
Okay, that probably helps with wear and tear.
right? They don't go home now.
They don't go home now. It's the, kid needs to go to his locker. He's holding his Chromebook. I've watched this happen. They look around, where could I put it? And there isn't a spot for them to put it. It's not like at home where you have the table right where you put your coffee mug before you open the door so you don't spill it. So they put it on the floor because there isn't another spot. Then because they're 11, they trip over themselves and step on the Chromebook, not on purpose. Nobody was trying to do that. It's just what happens when they're carrying them around.
So the other part of this that I'm also looking at is that at some point, we do have students age out of program 3 for special education that are in outplacements. That cost is already in your budget. That cost is significant. So one student aging out over a period of time could almost cover all of your Chromebooks. You need to spend $120,000 on a kid before you get excess cost. Guess what? $120,000 is 400 Chromebooks. So I'm also looking at the long-term planning of going, how can we do this without a major hit on the budget? Can we make sure we have the, some sort of, plan? We've spent COVID money on this. Our iPads have survived very well, actually. You have to have Chromebooks or computers to test for SBAC. It's just, we're trying to figure out the best way to do it. Without spending a ton of money.
Back to labs, no.
What do other districts do? Because we obviously aren't the only ones that have one-to-one Chromebooks.
So some districts only purchase so many, and then when you get to testing, that set of Chromebooks just stays in goes to this room and they test. Then it goes to this room and then they test. You just have to figure out how many you need. When you don't have enough Chromebooks, and this is the conversation Alicia and I have had, is how does that, if we only have 2 sets for 5th grade, and there are 3 people that want them in 5th grade at that time, someone doesn't get Chromebooks. And does that impact instruction? And so part of our survey is trying to figure that out, like, where are you really using your Chromebooks? Are you using them in math or, not really? Are you using them in intervention or not really? That's the information she's gathering. It's again, more of a long-term picture, but we wanted to put some money in here to try, and this money helps her, we think, at this point in time, close in on moving the carts next year, where it's not perfect, but it would be it would be doable, if that makes sense. That's what this money does.
Did we have carts pre-COVID? Or was this district ever on carts?
So we do have carts already, so it's not, we don't have to spend another $1,000 for carts. So we may need to buy 1 or 2, but we don't have to buy 14 or 15.
Are you asking if the kids didn't carry the computers pre-COVID?
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know.
our district, we were very much so carts, COVID hit, now it's all 1-to-1.
I think we've always carried. I don't think we've ever been. It's at center, it used to be 1 cart and they'd go and get. And then now they live in the room and they just don't, because it's a home room, it's easier at center. Whereas at Hall, it's always been you carry it, because the same issue, right? If I needed music class and he doesn't have a cart, we can't do any Chromebooks. So that student needs to bring it wherever they are. We track breakage. Novus does for it. I get the notifications and we put cases on them to try and protect them. It's helped, but it doesn't take away the same problem she's having, right?
Also the same, what's the damage that's happening is just from regular wear and tear. And I think that's when kids are carrying it around with them every day, they're everywhere they go, they're just opening and closing, almost treating it like a fidget, and not inappropriately. It's just they just got it in their hands. They don't even realize they're doing it. So we find that this little hinge right here, it's every kid, and these are responsible kids who are taking care of them. It's just breaking down, So keeping it on the cart, I think it comes out when it's necessary, when the teacher is given direction, when there's an instructional purpose for it, versus it's just something that they're carrying all day.
We're also trying to plan out, because it helps us in repairs. So you don't have 50 Lenovo's, 50 Acers, 50 of something else. If you can do the same brand, which we've done, we can use parts when things break, and that does save for us.
Do we have time before, either when that person times out for our district and we get that $125,000 back, do we have time to get there before the updates stop happening?
Yes,
Okay.
that's why I'm looking at it.
Okay.
So how do the timeouts work? Is it with age or is it with grade? When a child times out?
No, it's, what do you mean, like
When you referred before, we talked about when a child.
the Chromebook, or when I say
She's talking about.
It's great.
it's
Grade.
great,
Oh,
it's great, right?
So at the end of the school year.
So if it goes to eighth grade and they are graduating and they move on to another school, they're no longer in your budget.
Okay,
And then that changes your number.
Right.
Does Novus give us any credit for old laptops in the way of, like, cause there's metals in it, be recycled, do we get any credit for that from them?
Now, we've had recycling companies just come and pick them up when they're trash. But we make our laptops go, so like a sub laptop might not have all the bells and whistles because it's older. But we haven't had that since my time. We haven't had that cycle hit yet where they might be worth something still. I think we typically making our laptops run 5 to 7 years.
Okay, so for the kids' Chromebooks with their licensing, is that a static 3-year thing, or can you stretch that for an extra year?
They stretch it has to be licensed each year. It's, I think the updates that can no longer, they put
It's the update, so when you have like a Gen 8 or Gen
Yes.
7,
And
so, yeah.
yeah, so what Novus was saying is that it's like, it's built in where, at a certain point,
Chromebooks.
none of
Yeah.
the updates will occur.
Yeah.
And I think
from a
it's,
security standpoint, you just can't.
Yeah, but that's more than 3 years, though.
Oh, yeah, for sure,
Okay.
100%, yeah.
Gen 8 is way older than that, it's like 7 years.
No, I get that, but so my suggestion be considered is you start rolling a 1-to-1 basis starting in grade 2. And you roll them for 3 years, 4 years to grade 5. They get a new one at grade 5 and that rolls for 4,
Trying to
grade
follow the
8.
cycle.
And then, so that way you're constantly putting in a new set, in this case, you'd be putting in a new set of
We just did that.
74.
Yeah. We,
Instead of doing it all at once and then you're in trouble 5, 7 years down the line, you gotta do them all
yeah,
again.
figured again.
You get 70 so going every year. And you never have the situation where you're gonna be old, really. I mean, 4 years nowadays for laptops is fine.
Yeah.
And then that way you're not getting a big cost all at once. That's my solution for the
I agree.
kids' laptops.
Mhm.
Teachers and stuff, I don't know how you work that one,
Yeah.
but.
It's trying to put all of those puzzle pieces
Yeah.
together because they're all together.
Yeah.
But that's the concept. We know what the number is that she needs to get the carts. This does this, that, the 20,000 does that. But it doesn't do that solution. It would be more than what we need.
That's the best
You-
solution, though.
you'd be
to have a
at
plan for every
You'd
year,
basically
just
be at 80.
Yeah,
But like, we just refreshed 5th grade, same concept, so 5th grade was brand new this year, they'll roll up, and they should be good for that.
and that 5th grade student gets it, 6th grade, the same exact device, are we tracking that, so they're,
I don't think they get the same exact device, because Novus takes them in
oh,
and they service them and then.
But they'll get the same generation of laptops back though.
I believe so.
Might not necessarily be the same one, but at least it's in that same class.
so they have the same capabilities
Yeah,
and do the.
yes, yeah. You get the point, technology is expensive and we're trying to put some money in so you can see that.
Mhm.
Library books are flat, the equipment that's in there, that's still in there, on the computer equipment is the additional pieces. If they need iPads or parts, that's coming out of those funds. Alicia has a new line in there, it has not been in there, general equipment furniture. She said, I would love to not have folding chairs in health class. We use the blue folding chairs in that classroom we had for years, and social studies. And so we put $3,600 in to purchase classroom chairs. I will tell you that, I told her this. I constantly look when I get the gov deals, auctions, ads on my email, which is where we bought one of our stoves. That was basically brand new from Wyndham. Chairs come up every now and then. I'm not gonna buy garbage, but if I see something now that will work for middle schoolers and is not a folding chair, I will share it with her. We can do it, we'll do it. So that's that. I already mentioned the building maintenance. You can see that number came down some because I will say the balance of anything that's being repaired will be considered to be done through drip funds. The 36,000 covers the grease traps, the fire alarms, fire extinguisher, the pest control, all of that stuff. Any of the repairs will be additional funds. It's not in your budget. It'll come straight from the DRIP grant. The sports and extra activities, the stipends are more accurate now. It's been upped based upon the number of coaches that we have, sports that we're operating, the addition of, the increase and the addition of cross country. The officials is relatively flat, insurance is the same. The stipends for activity clubs stayed basically the same, a little bit higher. Sports equipment went down because we still have a bunch of money from the Little League fund, which covers softball and baseball. And then the sports membership is the same. Conference travel is contractual. There's Alicia's principal supplied, that's her to take care of her stuff, and a lot of her graduation stuff comes out of that. And dues and fees and memberships, those are professional dues and fees for principal and staff. So again, you can see her overall increase. She won for her first year. She beat Lisa with her percentage. She's at 5.26% increase. Again, it's Chromebooks and it's salary. That's the difference. Any other questions about 2? If you go 4, the last program of the night, again, you can see the secretarial support that's there. It's for the schools, it's 0.35, it's 3 people, the cost of it. You can see the increase in the bus contract is about 16,000.
What does the bus contract cover? Like, what is it? Just the buses? Cause it's
So
our
it's-
secretary, it's our drivers, I'm hearing a lot of Rs.
Drivers are that,
Drivers are them.
yes.
Okay.
So the 6 point, so we have 6 point, we pay for 6.5 buses a day. Plus, we have midday run for pre-K.
Mhm.
That the bus contract covers those items. It doesn't cover any other different field trips. So the way the contract works is you pay, we have basically 3 rates, a field trip rate, we have a club rate or a sports rate, and then a daily rate.
Mhm.
The midday rate is for Marcia's for the preschool program. The bus contract really is, it's, a dollar value, whether it's a big bus or a little bus, doesn't matter. It's the same rate times 6.5 and the number of school days, and we work it out, and that's what it comes out to. That covers the bus and the driver. If they have maintenance on it, it's on them.
Right, it's their bus,
Yeah.
it's their maintenance.
Yep, they negotiate a new contract and with their drivers, and we're still within our contract, that's still our rate. We're locked in at that rate per day. I expect when the subcommittee goes and negotiates that next year for a new contract. That's when you're gonna pay for any increases that they have. That's where the impact of minimum wage is we're gonna see the minimum wage impact again. Because you haven't seen it on your bus contracts yet, because it's a 5-year. Think about that. The last 3 years where we've had all those minimum wage increases, it hasn't hit your bus impact. We'll probably see that in the future.
So the 7 drivers are in that 522
Yes,
or 6.
it's actually more, I think it's more than 7 drivers, whatever the number is at the bottom, but.
Okay.
Yes. So money for musical events they go do several things, and we treat them just like we do athletics, we take them there. Not for all of their musical events, but for most of them. Sporting events went up, we actually went back over to look at history. And adding in the additional sport for cross country, we were under budgeting that, so we bumped that up to where it should be. And then we dropped the after school activities and clubs money down because we were looking at the number of clubs we were running, the number of kids we're transporting, the number of buses that were needed. And then I applied the $2,500 with the grant funds. So it's really 9,000 when you add in the grant fund.
Can we count on the grant again?
Yes.
Okay.
Didn't we have homeless transportation last year?
We did,
So we spent money on it, there should be a number there.
because there's no line. It doesn't, you did not budget money for it.
Right,
So
but we
it's just-
spent money on it according to earlier in the budget on a different item, the maintenance.
But because it was a line that was already budgeted.
but there's nothing there, so it's nothing there.
Correct.
Okay.
You did spend money, in 24, 25, and 23, 24.
But now it's a line item, so.
And I made it a line item because
Okay.
we've kind of eaten it
Hmm.
some way, whatever we can, and we're finding, and Marcia and I are the ones typically that are dealing with this,
Yeah.
it gets expensive really fast.
What does homeless transportation look like? What does that mean?
So, if there were a family, in town and they lose their housing and they find, temporary housing with a cousin in Hartford or in Glastonbury, we are responsible for transporting that child back to Willington until they have permanent housing again. If we can't find transportation, which is pretty normal these days, you can't find a van or a bus, we we ask everybody, it does, just don't exist. You, end up offering and seeing if they're the parent or someone will drive them in, and you pay them the mileage. Go
We
ahead.
do split the cost with the town that they are staying in, so let's just say, for example, a family is homeless, they are staying at a hotel in Manchester.
There you go.
We would then split the cost with Manchester, so same as if we had a student who was a Manchester student who came to stay at the Roadway Motel, we would be splitting that cost also.
To get that kid to Manchester.
Now, why wouldn't we get them moved over to the new district? Cause it's a state mandate that they have to go to their current district.
Correct.
So federal.
Federal, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Could be not
And-
disruptive to the student in their
Correct.
current
Yep.
district.
And actually, proving permanent housing is very hard. We typically, we'll work with families, but if you've lived with a cousin for 6 months. Does that become permanent? And so sometimes you have to ask questions, and sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is no. Either way, you are required to transport, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is no end date.
There typically is no end date. I always reevaluate at the end of the school year. And try to help the family
Yeah.
manage that.
Mm.
What's best for the student? If they really feel they're gonna be there long term, it's probably best for them to enroll in the school they're in.
And the reason for
Town they're
the
in.
transportation is so it doesn't disrupt their education, whereas the start of a new school year. Where should you start next year? Where are you gonna be? That's the point of it.
The federal mandate also requires that student, if they are identified homeless, they remain considered homeless within that school year. So even if they find housing within that school year, the parent can still opt to send the student to the district that they're originally from for that school year. And then would enroll their student in the new district the following year.
Unfunded mandate. Yep. But an important one.
Mhm.
So that's, where did that number come from? Like, do you base it on the number of kids who are accessing that service or?
The average over the last several years. And what we
Nothing.
currently know,
And you currently what?
and what we currently know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we've looked at our expenditures, and there's been some that are higher than that. And some that are lower than that.
But now that there's a line in, we'll be able to budget in the future.
Yes, and I think it's important for people to know, like, you have to. Well, you hope you don't have to use those dollars, but we have been, and it's been pulling from something else. Because you have to pay for it. And now I'm saying, no, we have to put some money to this because we've pulled from something else for too many years.
And we wanna have those available for those students with.
Correct. Yep. And then the fuel went down, which is great. So there's a decrease in the fuel cost. So the program in the end, it went up some, it went up 3%. A little over 3%, but it's not horrible. So that is 1, 2, and 4. Who's not here next week? You're not here next week. So Lisa is not here next week. You'll start your next meeting with a review of these programs. If you have any questions, send them to me in advance if you know them. I will get answers from the administrative team. And you know, you can actually ask for any program if you want at this point. But if you know that there's something for Lisa because she's not able to be here next week, please make sure you get those questions to me in advance.
Great, all right, we will be meeting next week. Wednesday, January 21st, again at 5:30. During that meeting, we'll discuss program 3, which is special education and related services. Program 5, health services, program 6, curriculum and staff development, program 7, utilities, and program 10, fringe benefits and substitutes. It's a jam-packed night, be there or be square. All right, we need a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second. Discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Adjourning at 6:41 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
And Jen's 41.